welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And thanks for joining us again on our off-season patio. Lots of positive things happening in our province of Ontario. We've gone into stage 2 of the reopening, so I can finally... I have an appointment in a couple of weeks for my hair. I haven't had a haircut in almost a year now.
You actually got one within 2 weeks?
Yes, yeah, I was
That's
surprised at
pretty
that.
good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're recording on the 4th of July, so we have to say happy 4th of July to our American friends and listeners and followers on social media. Hope you had a good one. But on the not so positive side, the Habs made it to the Stanley Cup final. Unfortunately, I hate saying those words. Yeah. The only good thing right now is that they're down 3-0.
Yes. So there's hope for a sweep.
Yeah. Oh, you shouldn't have said it.
Knocking on wood.
I know, but basically, for me, I've been conversing a little bit on social media with some Hab fans. They're just too hilarious, and Bergevin has basically saved his job, in my opinion. Most likely, he's going to get a new contract after this. But I don't understand these Hab fans. Like, for the last couple of years, they've wanted to get rid of him, and they're gonna probably sign him after this. But now, all of a sudden, Bergevin is the best thing ever because he signed Tyler Toffoli and Corey Perry and his
Anderson.
lovely Josh Anderson, and he and they love his red suit. I guess he'll be wearing that red suit on Monday night. I don't know. Otherwise,
I think he's probably gonna wear it for his good luck.
Yeah, charm. He's gonna have to wear it. Oh, geez, he better have a good cleaners if he wants to keep wearing it, because he's gonna have to wear it 4 times, right? if it goes, it's not gonna go that far, anyways.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I guess, about the final, not so much about the actual games, obviously, but the fan capacity in Montreal, I just think it's dumb how they didn't increase the amount from 3,500. It's just jammed outside and with people shoulder to shoulder. And I just don't know how they didn't allow more fans in the building.
No,
there.
and I haven't heard anything about any spikes in infections there. So obviously, it's not translating into anything, and just because you're going to move people inside doesn't mean you have to move all 20,000 inside, but you could still increase the capacity. And that Bell Center, if anybody has ever been there, it is a huge cavernous building. It's massive. Yeah. There's absolutely no reason why you cannot space out easily 10,000 people in there without any issue, because you've got the 3 tiers. It's a massive place.
It's
so
huge,
just
You
can stick all the Tampa fans at the top, which is what they do with the Leaf fans, and there's room for everybody in there. So, I agree. It doesn't make any sense.
Let's get into some league stuff, because
so
enough about the Habs.
We have some exactly. We've spent far too much time on them already. So we do have a few league updates that were announced by Gary Bettman this week, and it looks like the NHL is expecting to have a quote unquote normal 82 game schedule next season. And with that, they announced some league events. So the All-Star game this year is going to go to Vegas, which I think is an amazing choice.
Yeah.
The Winter Classic this year will be in Minnesota versus St. Louis. They also have a Stadium Series game announced with Nashville versus Tampa. So be interesting to see how they manage that and when that will be. The Heritage Classic is also to be determined. That will be held in Canada, and it's going to be scheduled for March in 2022. So there could be a possibility of the Leafs being involved in this game. Actually, I think a Leaf-Winnipeg matchup might be interesting, or even a Leaf-Edmonton matchup.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Or what about a Leaf-Kraken matchup? That would be nice.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah, if they want to get the Kraken involved in a big event. So, that's true. Yeah.
And of course, the NHL Draft for 2022 did go to Montreal because, well, I guess you got to give them something since they're going to lose out on the big prize this year.
Yeah. So they'll have the draft. So that's good. they can have that. And the league also announced that they're looking into incorporating the series style schedule next season. So I don't know. I was a fan of it, but then I started thinking, I don't know if I would like this over the 82 game schedule. Like, it was only 56 games, right? And I was, when I was researching this too, I totally forgot that there's actually going to be like, they haven't set in stone the style of schedule that they're going to have for next season. There's actually two options that they need to vote on still. But I mean, if we end up, I don't know. I just thought to myself, can you imagine seeing Buffalo 3 times in a row? Like, I don't know if I could handle that going.
The thing is that it, when I think about it like baseball. So yes, you're going to see 3 games against, okay, if you look at this season, you'll see 3 games, the JC, 3 games against Baltimore, which hopefully you can beat up on them. But then you're also going to see 3 games or 4 games against the Yankees, which is great. So it's the good outweighs the bad that way. I kind of think that that's the way you need to think about it. And I don't think anybody complains about it with baseball. And to me, it makes sense for travel. That if you're going someplace,
that way,
you're staying there for a few days. And I think that honestly, for the players' health, it might be better because it's going to cut down on a lot of that travel.
No, that's for sure. That's the main part of it, obviously, for them. But so I don't know. It's going to happen most likely. So we'll just have to deal with it.
Well, to me, if they try it, then there's no harm to trying it. If it doesn't work out and there's backlash, then they'll switch it again. And go back to the way it was before. So obviously that's some of the league news, and we got a lot of interesting Leaf talk on the way also. So we're going to get to some of the signings that we've had already with Spezza and Simmons and the coaching changes, and a few interesting trade possibilities we've heard linked to the Leafs. And we'll talk a little bit about the expansion draft, because this is a big thing that is happening on July 21st, and it's going to have league-wide effects. And also the NHL Draft, which is going to happen on July 23rd. And we'll dip our toe a little bit into some free agency talk, which is going to happen on July 28th. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs. When we released our last episode on that Wednesday, the Leafs announced signing Jason Spezza to a 1-year deal at the league minimum $750K. And then in short order, Wayne Simmons also signed a 2-year deal at $900K AAV. So what do you think about these two people coming back into the fold or remaining?
Yeah, I mean, Jason Spezza wasn't a surprise. He just loves it here. It makes me wonder, why didn't he get asked for a trade from Ottawa way back when, sort of thing, right? Like when he was with the Senators, he should have just said, "I don't want to play for you guys. I want to play for the Leafs." But yeah, I just thought it was funny how he said he would take less money if he could. I'm like, my God, I'm like, what a like. It's almost like he's on a mission, sort of like he's looking for that Stanley Cup and he wants to do it here and he doesn't care. And yeah, I mean, how can you not like the guy? Well,
let's hope the third time's the charm. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And and then with Simmons, I mean, he actually listened to us, I guess, in our last podcast. We said that we wanted it under $1 million. That's what it had to be, and it was. I'm a little bit worried about giving him the extra year, but again, we just hope he comes back the player that he was at the start of the season. And I was reading about his the wrist injury, like it really takes a lot of time, which kind of linked me back to Mikheyev as well. And his was even more, which was even more serious. But the amount of time, like the rest and the strength that you need to get for that wrist, like to heal properly, like it takes time.
Oh, so for sure.
I'm hoping that like now, like going into next year, like it'll have enough time and that he can get back to the player that he was when he first started with us those first month and a half or however long before he got injured. And I just think too, I kind of feel sorry for Joe Thornton because I just think too, like there's going to be fans in the building next year. I think like Simmons is gonna, like he talks about having his daughter there and putting on the Leaf jersey with his name on it and all that. Like he's going to get the experience of actually having the fans there to celebrate. I think that's going to help him too, to be better and yeah, just the energy from the fans. I think it's just going to be different for him. Unfortunately, I don't think like Joe Thornton isn't going to get that. Which I kind of feel bad for, but yeah, I think like both of those signings are.
Hey, but you know what he does get? The beautiful alumni jacket.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He at least earned that. So he'll get the alumni jacket. He'll get to be in the building, maybe in the alumni box if he retires. I don't know what his plans are.
Yeah.
As for Simmons, I mean, the 2-year deal, I think it's fine. I actually think that the extra year of security might be a good thing because he doesn't have to prove it all in 1 year. You know what I mean? Like I think sometimes when you got a lot more pressure on you, then everything is tighter, right? So this gives him that security. He doesn't have to worry about next year. He can just focus on just getting his game together and being at his best without worrying about all the extra stuff about what about next year. You know what I mean? Like, I honestly think that could be, when you're at the later stages of your career, that could be in the back of your mind, constantly nagging at you, even if it's subconsciously that's, you know, you've got to prove something so that you can, you know, get another contract kind of thing. So
yeah. And the other thing is I looked, when I was looking up on Cap Friendly, I saw we still have Phil Kessel's contract on our next year is the final year.
For still one more year. I
one more year. So year. God. I mean, it's 1.2 million, I think.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, well, then I guess that money in the following year, in the second year of Simmons' deal, he'll just take over from Phil's, like paying for him sort of thing, right?
No doubt that was in the minds of you know.
Everything has to be taken into account. Yeah, I had no idea. I thought we were done with Phil, but anyways, apparently we're not.
Yeah,
so
still a few more hot dogs to deliver, I guess. So
yeah. But on another note, on Leaf update, so the assistant coach, Dave Haxtell, actually has gone to the Seattle Kraken to the new. I was kind of surprised at that he was the guy that I guess was rumored out of the out of our assistant coaches to be I guess a candidate for that. And yeah, he was named to the Seattle Kraken. So when they come up to the expansion draft to pick a Leaf player, they're definitely going to know us pretty well.
I did find that interesting. And like you said, I found that it was kind of interesting how quietly it was done. Like you did not hear anything about them having permission to speak to him or anything, which I do think could end up in the Leafs' favor, because a lot of the time with these expansion things, we know there was a lot of background deals happening with Vegas. So perhaps there's some sort of deal here that, okay, we will let you talk to him. And if you do decide to hire him, then hush, hush. This is who we would like you to take, or who we would like you to ignore, kind of thing. So we'll see. How that kind of
and I have heard over the last couple of days too, Bruce Boudreau's name has been coming up again as a possible candidate for a replacement. Apparently I think they talked to him the last time too, when Manny Malhotra was in the I guess in the running too. And I think, having looked at some of the information on Boudreau too. I mean, obviously everybody knows he was the head coach of Anaheim, Washington, Minnesota, but he actually had like one of the top power play units for both Anaheim and Washington. I mean, it helps with Washington. Obviously they have Ovechkin there, but still you have to have a system to play it. And he had it in Anaheim also with Ryan Getzlaf, obviously there in his youth sort of. So, I mean, that obviously is going to bode well for success on a power play. But I mean, he obviously knows how to run one, and he had success. So I don't know. I just think too, and the fact he's former Leaf, obviously, and he loves the Leafs. So I don't know. And it just seems too perfect of a match. Yeah. And then you could put Malhotra back to what he was doing with Vancouver, which is on the PK and being on the more defensive side of things, right?
Yeah, I agree. And, whereas last year I wasn't too keen on having like a former head coach, with multiple years experience behind the bench, now Keefe has had a couple years back there. This is probably a good time to get somebody like that in there. And as well, he is also known as a very player friendly coach. So that's also really great for, assistant coach, so that maybe Keefe could be a little bit more on the bad cop side and he could be the good cop side. And, and like you said, all those other attributes that he brings. And God, like who's going to be more excited behind there? Like really?
Yeah, no, exactly.
And that's, we talk about having veteran leadership on the ice and having guys that are excited to pull on that jersey. You could have that also in the coaching staff if you hire Bruce Boudreau. That excitement and that rah and that come on guys, sort of thing.
When I hear him on the radio, like I hear him on interviews on the radio, and he's always like, he's a Leaf fan. I'm like, this would be fantastic. But anyways, we'll see. I haven't heard any other possibilities on candidates, so I'm sure that'll come out in the next little while.
Right. So normally we don't get into trade speculation much, but with the flat cap and the expansion draft coming up, it's a lot more twists and turns. And so it's something we can't really avoid. So we found a great article by the Fourth Period on the 2021 Summer Trade Watch, which you can find in the link in our show notes on our Buzzsprout website or on Apple. So based on this article, what are some of the things that stood out to you?
It was funny because there's a few things when it comes to player movement and not necessarily trade possibilities, but I think that Sil should become an insider because in the last show she was talking about Freddie Anderson and how I don't know, she actually had my mind changing a little bit then to say that there was a small possibility that Freddie Anderson actually comes back. I don't know. I just think the last little while, like there's been some conversation, I guess, between the two parties, and Freddie just doesn't seem like this is the first time he's going to be a UFA too, right? So he just, I don't know. To me, he just looks like he wants to, like where he's comfortable. He likes to stay here, and he's a nice Danish guy, right? So he wants to just, I guess, work things out, and even though maybe a change might be better for him, who knows, right? Like to be in a different place, it might be better. But
you know what, I kind of feel like maybe that, but it's all a question of timing, is that might be true, but maybe that's not the best this year. Maybe if he signs like a 1-year deal, then he'll be ready. Do you know what I mean? Like he can go out on his own terms that way, as opposed to going out like this, which
he was injured.
To go out this way.
Yeah, he was injured most of the season. And I mean, the question for the Leafs too is whether or not there's a better goalie out there that's affordable to fit under their cap situation. And I mean, there's also the possibility, I'm not going to say the name, I think we just put his name as VV, the guy that we got from Columbus, who's a young goalie. But is he ready to be a backup to, I mean, Jack Campbell is going to need help. There's no doubt. I do not see him playing 50 to 60 games. There's just it's not going to happen.
And we didn't see Veini Vivalainen, I'm trying the name now. We didn't see him at all. So
good attempt there.
Yeah, thank you. I will practice more over the summer. But we didn't see him at all. So, and I honestly think they need to see him for a year in the Marlies before they can even think of moving him up. So,
yeah. But, we'll see with the goalie situation. Now, a lot of people are getting excited about this, or possibility of getting, what's his name? Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah.
I don't know. If that happens.
The only way that happens is guess who's not here.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the next thing when it comes to Morgan Riley. I mean, through his agent, he said also that he's willing to to basically take a pay cut from whatever.
He's one that is willing to do that.
Yeah. Because,
but I mean, even at a pay cut, I mean, I looked at his comparables and everything, and he's kind of right in the middle of the pack. But that puts him at the 7 million, basically per range, right? So for a pay cut, then he's looking at somewhere between somewhere under 7. So you're looking at maybe 6.7 to 6.9, somewhere there is a pay cut for him, honestly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think, I don't know, I'm hoping he signs Riley.
Me too.
Because I think that's what, that's what everybody is waiting. Basically, a decision has to be made. If he doesn't sign, then he's going to get traded. Basically, right? Like if they can't come, but then a lot of other things have to be figured out too. The situation with Hyman, with Freddie, with these other UFAs that they have, like Galchenyuk is another one. If he's going to be under $1 million or if he's going to stay, I don't know. But I would just like for us to one player. I know it doesn't happen anymore, but one player just to stick with the team that he was drafted by for his entire career.
No, and that's a very unleaf thing.
Yeah.
You think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It never happens.
I mean, it doesn't have many teams at all.
But I mean, there's lots of people from Montreal, for example, that got to retire as a Hab. You know, there's other players like Sidney Crosby is probably going to retire as a Pittsburgh Penguin. You know, there's there's certain, and we just have never had that. We've never had the best player in the league, but the best Leaf has never retired a Leaf.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they've gone and come back to retire as one, but never stayed here their full career. And
you look at Boris Salming, whatever. Obviously, Doug Gilmour, Wendell Clark, all of those players, Daryl Sittler. Yeah. So
Dave Keon.
Yeah. So no, it just doesn't happen for us. So it would be nice, definitely. Yeah. I would like to see that. So and I just don't think Dougie Hamilton is gonna. I don't think he can put up with this market, to be to what it takes to be in this market. He didn't. I don't think he liked it in Boston, and I mean Boston's a pretty heavy duty market, and then so that's why he ended up being shipped off. I forget what team he went to before Carolina, but he was somewhere else.
He was out west somewhere.
Yes, he was, but I forget if it was. Oh, it was Calgary. Yes, Calgary.
So, and he was a bust there.
Yes,
big time. They couldn't wait to run him out of town there.
Yeah. And that's a Canadian market as well, but maybe not.
Except though the one thing with the Leafs is that as hard as we are on the players, they get more love than hate generally. It's always tipped in the scales of love when they the thing is you could do a whole lot of bad and there's it's just going to pile on you. But the minute you do something good, it's over the top love for you. So
no, and that's what I expect to happen for Mitch Marner. I cannot believe
for sure.
On social media, give the guy a break. It's almost getting it's not happening in the building like it did with Larry Murphy, but it's that equivalent is happening on social media to this guy. I hope he's turned it off or whatever. I haven't seen anything from him. It's not going to happen. He's not going to be dealt. I don't see that happening as a big deal. The only thing I heard that I thought was I don't know if it was a joke or not, but somebody, when it came to Chris Johnston from Sportsnet, was talking about on Steve Dangle's podcast, was talking about some big deal that the Leafs are going to make a big deal this summer, a big move, whatever that is. And he's like, but he can't really speculate. But somebody speculated and said it's Max Domi.
Oh, no.
And I was like, No, we don't need that. No.
Oh my God.
Even though everybody would probably love it too, right? That whole name, just the name, like obviously with Ty Domi.
Yeah, but
right?
why when Domi is basically disappeared off the face of Leaf Nation? I mean, he's nowhere. He basically, has he moved to Sweden with Mats? Because like, honestly, I don't hear anything from him. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Because he did have the excuse when Max was with the Habs, right? He obviously had the excuse, but he never came back again. Yeah. No, I don't know. But
anyway,
hopefully that's not the case.
Yes. So anyway, for sure, there's going to be a lot of wheeling and dealing leading up to the expansion draft. And so that's what we want to get into next. So this is a little complicated. So for our listeners, here's a little bit of an explanation as to how the Seattle Kraken are going to become the 32nd NHL team. Each team must make available 2 forwards, 1 defenseman, and 1 goalie that meets the following requirements. So number 1, each skater has to be under contract for the 21-22 season. Each skater must have appeared in at least 27 games during the 2020-21 season, or 54 games total during the last season and the season prior. I guess that's a stipulation based on the weird COVID business.
Yeah.
The goalie must be under contract for the 21-22 season or an RFA at the end of that season. So,
yeah. So also, so each team has a choice of either projecting 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and a goalie, or the second option is to take any 8 skaters and a goalie.
And I believe that is for teams that have a really good defensive makeup. This allows them to protect more defensemen.
Yeah. So that's a basic overview. And in our show notes, there's a really good article by thehockeywriters.com that you should check out because there's a lot more details. And we were basically just reading that out to you because it's very detailed. But this article has a lot of other details on the rules of the expansion draft that you should take a look at. That's on our Buzzsprout website that you can find it. And so which option, Sil, do you think the Leafs are going to go with?
Well, honestly, I have a feeling that it could be Kerfoot that goes. And part of the reason is that he's obviously a serviceable player.
No, but before we get that, though, which option are we going with? Are we going with option number 1?
Okay. So I think we're going to be going with the 3 forwards, 3 defensemen situation.
The 7
forwards, 3 defensemen.
Oh, okay. So you think option 1. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you think that. Oh, okay. All right. Because I thought.
I don't think our D is that strong that we need to protect more than 3 defensemen. Like the only defenseman I see as protecting really is Riley, Brody, and Muzzin. That's it.
For me, I mean, when it, again, like you said, it really depends on the defense, and it just depends what they do with Dermott. Like if they're, I've been hearing rumblings that they might trade him.
If he's not signed yet.
Yeah, I've been hearing rumblings that they might trade him. In which case, then I would say, for me, I took the other one. I took the 8 skaters and a goalie because I figured the core 4, that's who they'll protect. I mean, they have to protect. Not to say that they wouldn't, but I mean, JT has a no trade clause. So that's one of the stipulations that he has to be on the protected list. And so there's 4 of them. And then the 4 defense guys, Brody, Riley, Muzzin, and Hull.
Well, the other thing is we have a lot of guys that are not under contract. So a ton.
Yeah, that's why
which makes it difficult.
Yes, to say which option they're gonna do, right? But I mean, if they sign Dermott, let's just say, and they don't, then I would think they would go the other way with the 7 forwards, the 3 defense, and the 1 goalie, because then they'll basically have the 2 options, whether or not Seattle, if they decide to take a defenseman, whether or not they choose Hull or Dermott. Like we'd be in a better situation anyways, because I just think Justin Hull, yes, he's a great value and it's a great story the way he's played, but I really think when Muzzin is not there, there's a drop off there. I mean, we saw it just in the one game, I guess, or two games when Muzzin got injured in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like Muzzin is the real force on that. And I mean, Hull is good, but I don't know. The only other thing too, you'd be losing the right shot defenseman in Justin Hull if the possibility, which we all know it's been going on in the Leafs world forever to try and find that right shot defenseman. But yeah, I don't know. For me, like I said, I picked the 4-4 or the 8 skaters and 1 goalie. So, but it really depends a lot on who's signed, who's traded, and all that, and that's over the next few weeks.
That's why, like if Kerfoot, I mean, he played great in the playoffs, and he's not just because he's left unprotected, or he's picked up it's got nothing to do with whether or not, we want him back still. Obviously, we do want him back still. However, he meets a lot of the needs that a team that is starting out, because they need, serviceable players. They need, somebody versatile like that who can play center and wing. And also he's got a big enough salary that helps them come up to the minimum, which is an issue. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And
so that's why to me, he seems attractive.
Yeah. That makes it quick for us here because I picked Kerfoot as well. I'm crossing my finger. I'm actually crossing my fingers that it is him because of the salary, the $3.5 million salary. And he's signed for the next 2 years. So that's also attractive. Right. The only thing that's crappy about that, I hate it the way it's always coming up and you're going to yell at me, but that means that we got nothing for Kadri. But anyways, let's move on.
That's not true because we got an asset that could be left unprotected. Like, would you rather be losing Kadri in this thing or would you rather lose him?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's true.
Think about
I
that.
Guess so. I'll think about that. All right. So
anyhow,
Kyle Dubas and company are going to be busy because after the expansion draft comes the NHL draft. And it's funny, this draft really has no hype to it because with the pandemic and a lot of the junior players from Canada, the US, and Europe have had very little playing time, if any. And scouts haven't been able to go out and see these players. So yeah, I don't know. Let's get into the NHL draft.
Well, right now, as it stands, the Leafs only have 3 draft picks in this 2021 season. A late second round pick, a 5th and a 6th, and that is it. So this could and probably will change with the expected deals leading up to the expansion draft and taking into account the flat cap. So
yeah, so it's definitely going to be a draft where it's the diamonds in the rough, as they say, kind of draft. So like I said before, many players haven't had much playing time and scouts haven't been able to go to the game. So a lot of hockey analysts are saying if there was a year that you didn't have too many picks, this would be the year to do it.
Which they probably knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. And as of as of today, the 4th of July, when we're recording this podcast, the Leafs' first pick is 57th overall. And actually, I forgot to look this up. I don't know how I'm going to pronounce this name as I'm looking at it, but a couple of players that could be available at that point are Sean Chigurl. Chigurl? I don't know. You want to try that, Sil?
No, I do not.
Okay. So he's a left winger who played in the WHL with the Calgary Hitmen. And he did actually play this season, 14 games and had 6 goals, 4 assists. So that's one guy in that range that could be a diamond in the rough.
So if the Leafs end up deciding to go the European route, they could also go with Matt. I can't even say this.
Matvei.
Matvei Petrov, another left winger who played in the Russian Junior League last season and played 58 games with 22 goals and 20 assists. Wow, that's a nice, well-rounded looking point production. So that would really help the Leafs. What would really help the Leafs is for some of their late picks from previous rounds actually to make a push to make the team. And that's 100% what I think. So I honestly really couldn't care less about this year's draft. What I want to see is some of the guys that we already have in our system, being able to finally make a jump.
That's the thing. I mean, I had a look back at the draft at Austin Matthews draft, the 2016 draft. I'm like, okay, it's great that you picked like Marner, Matthews, Nylander. I mean, those are for sure picks. But what about everybody else that was had chosen like in the second, third, fifth rounds, whatever? So,
well, I will point out that those picks are not Dubas's picks, by the way. So,
well, not in 2016. He came in 2017. From 2017.
Right. So anything that is Matthews and earlier. So you're talking 2016, 2015, 2014 there when you're mentioning those three players. So anybody who's picked in those later rounds then, that's not on Dubas and Co. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah. Yeah. But okay, so I looked it up anyways, and there's this kid, James Greenway. He was picked 72nd overall in the third round. The scouting report in 2016 in Austin Matthews draft. And scouting report says he's a big, towering defenseman with huge upside. And I'm like, okay, so where is he? And why haven't I heard this name before? Like James Greenway. I'm like, he's 6'5", 217 pounds. He's a left shot defenseman. And last year he played for the University of Maine. Actually, for the last couple of seasons he played there. So it's like, but I don't know. Like other than that, like you don't. I mean, 6'5", like that's
sounds
size.
good.
That's who we need. Yeah, like we've been saying that we'd love to have.
Isn't that Dougie Hamilton proportions?
Yeah, and it's funny though because then I looked a little bit earlier. He was picked at 66th overall in that same draft. Was this year's Norris winner, Adam Fox. And he was picked 66. So he was still chosen around that time. This kid was picked 72nd later, a little bit later. But yeah, I don't know. We need to have more hits in these later rounds. And then like, I guess when it comes to Dubas, the way you were saying how that's like 2016 and prior, that's not where he was involved with the managing of the team. But there's this center, Philip Hallander, that we got in the Kapanen deal.
Yep.
Right. So he's described as a gritty, talented offensive forward. And I'm like, okay. So like, I know it's only been because we traded for Kapanen last season, right?
They just gave him a contract though, didn't they? I thought that they did just recently signed him to a longer deal. Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe we will be seeing more from him this year.
But it's like, yeah, in these other deals that we've made, in trading, I guess Kapanen, and even there was another kid, this Stefan Nosen. I forget who we got. It was in another deal. Yeah, that was this year, right?
Yeah.
With that we got in the Columbus deal with Nick Foligno and that.
Right.
Yeah. So like these prospects, like I just hope that we need these prospects to work out somehow, at least one of them. Right. I mean, we have Nick Robertson. That we got him as a good pick in the second round, and a lot is expected of him to hopefully make the team. But this upcoming season, but he had the knee injury that set him back a little bit. But apparently he's fine now. So yeah. So
well, I'm part of it though is that it's so difficult to evaluate these things right now because the past 2 years, there's been really like normally we would see a lot of these guys in the AHL, right? Or playing more in the other clubs. But there's been so much of a disconnect with, minor leagues and in lower level professional leagues this year because of all the closures, because they don't have the same resources and everything. So I think it's really difficult over the last 2 years to really evaluate and to also hear about these people because a lot of times they weren't playing.
Yeah. But the only thing is though, these players were chosen, I'm pretty sure they were before this whole pandemic thing started. So they have like something from, let's say, two or more years ago from whenever they were chosen. They have some information. But I mean, the growth of the player is something else, like to say.
That's it. The development. Yeah. So the development has been stalled somewhat for a lot of these guys. So hopefully they've been doing their work, elsewhere, if not on the ice. And this year they can really dig in and do something. But I honestly don't think that anyone who's had their development derailed for a couple years, like it's going to be a miracle for them to be able to take a big step. So some of these guys is going to take a little longer, unfortunately, without any, it's not, not within their control really.
Yeah.
So,
and really in the end, I think it's only going to be Robertson, and unless we do get a surprise from one of these other players that we've picked up from a trade, but it's going to be Robertson and possibly Timothy Liljegren.
Yes, definitely
might get in there depending on what happens.
He's somebody who is, if he's not going to make a step this year, then I don't know when he's going to. So he could be a good stay-at-home guy. I don't think he's going to. And that's actually a good foil to Sandin, because Sandin is more offensive oriented, and Liljegren is, I think, going to be a more, steady, stay at home kind of guy who makes some smart plays, Yeah. Anyway, sure. Whatever happens leading up to and at the draft is going to affect what the Leafs can do on July 28th. So let's get into that a little bit. So we know the Leafs have two big UFAs in Zach Hyman.
This is free agency, right?
Yes. Yeah, free agency.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we've got Zach Hyman, sad face, and Frederick Anderson, maybe smiley face, which we talked about in our last episode. Also, there is Nick Foligno, who has expressed interest in coming back, and Alex Galchenyuk. But who else could the Leafs be targeting to sign as UFAs? Chris, what do you think?
Yeah. So I did look into it a little bit, and should Hyman leave, there's going to be a huge hole, obviously, there at left wing. And I could see the Leafs going after someone like Barclay Goodrow, who's currently playing with Tampa Bay. So obviously he has lots of Stanley Cup experience there, and he's a left winger, 28 years old. Or even Matthias Janmark, who we saw a bit with Vegas in their run. He originally was with Chicago earlier this season and then was traded to Vegas. They won't be on the top line like the way Hyman was there, but if Foligno wants to return at a reasonable price, then that would fit. Then he could possibly fill the spot on the top line with Matthews and Marner, I'm thinking. And then I also thought of Michael Granlund again, since Nashville seems to be clearing house, which it's kind of interesting. I was just reading it before we came on the podcast, because Victor Arvidsson went to, I could not believe that deal. Like, I'm thinking to myself, why he went to LA for the second round pick. I'm like, why is it always that, like, when it comes to the Leafs, when we go for a player, they always want a first place, like a first round pick, or they want like our top player. Yeah, give us Mitch Marner or something ridiculous like that. Like, I'm like, how does that happen? And but anyways, Michael Granlund, sometimes when those types of deals don't work at the deadline, let's just say, but you circle back the way they say at the time of free agency or the draft or whatever, and something might work out that way. But one other name that I did not hear at all that was connected to the Leafs is Connor Garland of Arizona. Mm-hmm. And so he's 25 years old, a right winger. And apparently the description on him is he creates offense, he back checks, he wins puck battles along the boards, he blocks shots, and he generates takeaways.
No, who does that sound like?
Yeah, who does that sound like, Sil?
Yeah.
He's a right winger. He's not a left winger, but it sounds a lot to me like Zach Hyman. And I'm like, wow. And apparently Arizona, we really don't know what is going down there, but they aren't interested. He apparently in signing him, because he apparently went to their management, their agent went to the management back in May saying, like, this is basically like he's interested in resigning and this is the deal sort of thing that we're looking at. Like, let's work. And apparently they haven't answered him yet. So this is like going back almost 2 months now. So I don't know. It depends on how much money Dubas has to play with here, and what Hyman does. And it would be great if if we had someone in the system that could come up and fill the role for Hyman too, like that's where, like not to be on the first line, but this grinding type of dependable, versatile winger. It would be nice if we had somebody in the system, but because that's
honestly, I didn't mind like if they were to say bring Galchenyuk back. I actually like Galchenyuk up there on the top line with those guys.
Yeah, but he had something
workable.
going. He had something going with JT too and Nylander.
Yeah, he did.
Like
so
he was fine there, but yeah, I don't know. So it's a lot is just going to depend on what is happening with Zach Hyman and
yeah,
and
that's got to
also-
be definitely the first domino to drop. So
yeah, and
anyway.
also what happens with
the
Morgan Riley
expansion
and that
draft, too.
and the expansion draft. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if with the expansion draft, if we lose Kerfoot at center, then there's another option that the Leafs can look at, Alexander Wenberg, he's another person who's been on their radar for a while, who was with Florida last season. He's 26, so he's around the same age as Kerfoot. It's so weird, though. I always think of Kerfoot as older than that. I don't know. Maybe it's his beard. Anyway, but he is bigger, so he's a bigger guy at 6'2". So he had a good season at 17 goals, 12 assists, and he plays the penalty kill also. So that would fit the mold. But he could be too expensive. And considering we've been saying that Kerfoot's too expensive all along, that might not be the greatest fit. And of course, we already mentioned, and a lot of fans are thinking we should go after Dougie Hamilton. We already talked a bit about that, but I don't really see how that's a great fit unless other people move out.
When it comes to Dougie Hamilton too, I actually prefer Jamie Alexiak is a UFA as well. So I mean,
and he's a hometown boy too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Dougie Hamilton's from here also, but
he's a left shot D though, but he's also probably gonna be too expensive. He was making just over $2 million already with Dallas. So I don't know. Those are some of the options. Anyways, with but
he could play with Spezza again.
True, yeah.
Maybe
I didn't think
Spezza
of that.
could convince him.
I didn't think
to
of that.
Take a little less money. You know?
Yeah.
Come for the experience, not the money.
Yeah, and Spetz is good at phoning people. He phoned Simmons right after while he was doing his interviews.
This guy, he better be a Leaf for life even after he retires. Honestly, because he wears the blue and white the way it's supposed to be worn for sure. Anyways, there's definitely going to be a lot of moves over the next few weeks and a lot will change. But I guess, we're sort of kind of getting used to that a little bit now. It's going to be real interesting to see what Kyle Dubas and co do or do not do after our embarrassing loss to the Habs in this year's playoffs. Anyway, if something big happens, we will definitely have a bonus show for you. But for now, we're going to take a bit of a break, and our next episode will be on the first Wednesday of next month, which is August 4th.
So before we go, we want to give a huge shout out to our Canadian listeners from coast to coast. Happy belated Canada Day, but thank you for listening to us and following us on social media. And for all of our listeners, if you have any thoughts on what we talked about on the show, you can DM us on social media or email us at ladiestalkingleafs@gmail.com. And be sure to follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Our handle is at LTL1917.
And another way to connect with us is at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there. And if you choose to, you can support us there and buy us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find a link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, thank you to our healthcare workers for everything they have done and continue to do. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite app. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Podcast Addict, we would appreciate it if you could take the time to leave us a review too. We'd love to hear your feedback on the show, and it will help give us more exposure as an outlet for Leaf content.
So everyone, as always, stay safe and well, and we'll talk to you next month or maybe sooner if something exciting happens. Go, Leafs, go!